One of the great pioneers, this is David from David Books and Comics. And one of the great pioneers of fantasy fiction in the United States was this guy, Lynn Carter. Really well known with Osprey de Camp as one of the major influences on the popularizing fantasy fiction, particularly sword and sorcery fiction, planetary romance, what's called planetary romance, or sword and planet fiction that was started by the ones who created the genres, people like Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs. So you're looking at actually the very first fantasy novel that he published, a sword and sorcery story uh, that he created for Ace Books. It was subsequently rewritten and expanded, a little expansion anyway. And first, this one's from 1965. It's the first edition. The subsequent title was Thongor and the Wizard of Lemuria. The Wizard of Lemuria actually plays a prominent role in this novel. And what you have is a cover by Gray Morrow and Ace book number F326. And as is my usual manner, I like to look at these books and look at the interior. And this is a very sharp, beautiful copy of this book. And it says, Sword, Science, and Secret Sorcery challenge the last of the dinosaur kings. Okay. So there's the main character. And there's your Lemuria. According to the writer, it takes place 500,000 years ago. So there you go. And this is one of the main lead characters with the sword. I think it's called the Sword of Nemesis, if I remember correctly. This is a wonderful little book, wonderful read. I particularly like the spaceship. It's not really a spaceship, it's a flying ship. In the vein of, I guess, Robert the Conqueror and Master of the World kind of thing, flying ship, by Jules Verne. Our lead character is Thongor, who's a wizard of Lemuria. He's a Valkarthan, and he has his own little sword. And then he meets this wizard, a wizard named Sharad Shah. And they go on these adventures, usually on a flying ship. Very inventive little image that the writer Lynn Carter creates. And it's actually a wonderful little story. I wouldn't consider it one of the major works of fantasy fictions, but it's, I think, an important work as a fantasy writer, mainly as an influencer, one who promoted the genre and really pioneered the genre of, pioneered in the sense of being an influencer and a promoter of sword and sorcery and fantasy fiction in general. It's a wonderful, thin little tome by Lynn Carter. And the story he managed to be retold in a series of comic books, which I've shown in previous previous episodes of my channel. But we're going to look in the interior art because there's some beautiful artwork inside, especially in the last 3 issues of Creatures on the Loose that features Thongor, Warrior of Lemuria. First, we'll go through the covers, and then we'll go through the interior of the last 3 issues. The artists, you'll see, the first artist was a guy named Val Mayerick, who's a very competent and excellent artist. But I think the best work on Thongor, the comic book, was done in the last 3 issues, and we'll go and look through that. Okay. First of all, as is my style, I'm going to show you the cover of the entire series, which I managed to finish off the collection. All right, so I'll change the perspective, and I'll show you what the entire series, what they look like. So that's issue 22 of Creatures on the Loose, and the cover art is Jim Steranko. Any of you are comic book aficionados, you'd like his work, and you look at the detail. It's just a wonderful image, and that captures the image of the character that subsequently is followed, both on the at the top corner there and in the interior. So Velma Yarrick is the one who is the interior artist. And this is issue number 23. Artist is John Romita Sr. And as it says, sword and sorcery as only magnificent marvel can present it. Okay, the Man Monster strikes. That first couple of issues is actually a short story that Lynn Carter wrote. This here starts the story of The Wizard of Lemuria, the paperback that you saw earlier. The cover artist is Velma Yarrick, I think. This is 25. And then we have issue number 26. This is 27. 28. And 29. And this is the last of the Thongor. And I think it's the last and only appearance of Thongor. Cover artist there looks to be the work of Gil Kane. Wonderful detail. Interior art is what makes the last 3 issues worth digging into and collecting. All right, so let's just take a look at the last 3 issues in the interior. I'll change the perspective, and then we'll have make a short deep dive. Now, just to tell you the setting of the story, this is the last part. And as you can see, it's adapted from The Wizard of Lemuria, the actual paperback that I showed you. The artist is a great artist, a guy named Vicente Alcazar. And Vicente Alcazar is a Spanish artist, more known for working on DC comics, and especially the war comics that DC put out around this time period. All right, so that's the interior art, just Alcazar's best, among his best. You can see the detail in the faces and the setting that he creates. He just fills in each panel. And there's a nice splash page. He was not exactly, like I said, known for his fantasy work. He was more known for his war comics. And you can see the action. And here what's happening is it's basically the climax of the novel. And he's reclaiming his sword. And look at that. That's what just the spaceship. It's not a spaceship. It's actually a flying ship. It has a kind of an anti-gravity device built in, aka in the style of Hawkman, and a kind of nth metal that makes the ship float. Just a wonderful image. And there's the ship. If you read the previous episode, the previous issues, you'll realize that the art and the detail is not quite there as it is in this issue. All right, so that's, and again, the dragons as shown in the previous issue doesn't have this kind of detail. And there we have the star sword, or the sword of Nemesis. The main wizard is this guy, and he's a major character in the entire story. His name is, as listed, written here, Sharad Shah. All right, so the climax comes, and I think, yeah, it starts here and ends there. Just look at that detail. This fellow really is a really great artist. And you can see by the building of the ship that that the artist is kind of creating putting the detail of the ship in conjunction with the time that he's writing it. In other words, it's not sophisticated. It doesn't look like sophisticated technology, but in fact is a science. It's kind of a lost science. Just a brilliant way of conveying a story through images and pictures. And this is the final climactic issue, where everything kind of, it's called Lord of Chaos, again finishing off the story by Lynn Carter. Script here is by Steve Gerber, but it is, when you read the novel anyway, it's very pulpy, but when left to the imagination of an artist, it moves beyond its genre and just has a unique, almost cinematic quality. So, and there's our guy, the wizard, holding a sword. He is reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings wizard, Gandalf. And there's the star sword, or the sword of Nemesis, as it's called in the novel, made from a fallen star. And there's the Dragon Kings, the main villains in the novel. Just one of the best examples of fantasy art. As you can see there, there's the our hero Thongor eventually arriving at the Dragon King's castle. And there's a little sampling of Mayeric's type art. There's nothing wrong with Mayeric. It's just not as good as Alcazar's. Vicente Alcazar. And you can see there's a surreality to the artwork. These old comic books are always full of ads. And there's another beautiful splash page. As we come to the climax of the story, who wins? Is it all tragic? And there you see he finally grabs the sword and confronts the Dragon Kings. The Dragon Kings were a race that ruled many years before, and basically and we're about to rule again until Thongor and Sharaja, the wizard, showed up. Anyway, it's well worth collecting just to get the climax. The entire series is easy to collect, but well worth collecting just for the artwork. So the last 3 issues in particular add to the depth of the climax of the story. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this look at one of the gems of Marvel Comics back then. It's not one of their great successful titles, but it is a good example of excellent sword and sorcery. So that's The Wizard of Lemuria by Lynn Carter. And the cover art and the paperback is as signed by Gray Morrow. All right. And my suggestion for reading, get the first one. All right. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.